Yes, I borrowed Jay's slide theme. I am Jeremy Meese, the head of DevRel at Circle CI. And from 95 to 97, I worked in an internet provider. And we did the websites and e-commerce sites for the first Mission Impossible movie, uh, along with for Apple. And I was hired first as tech support, and I built out those, great CDs with things like WSFTP, Netscape Navigator, Gopher, Winsock, and I progressed all the way up to being a Unix system admin and network admin. During my time there, we'd grown to take over three total floors in this building. And the dubious decision was made to have myself and the support team run the new Cat5 cable instead of letting the contractors do it, and then just let the contractors connect the cables at the outlets. So one of the many problems with this was that whenever there were issues, we didn't know who was sitting where or what outlet was connected to which port on that patch panel. So CTO decided that we should identify which patch panel port went to each outlet at each desk. So the fact that this should have been done from the beginning, and by those of us actually running the wiring instead of the contractors, was lost on him. And it wasn't kind of that first time, or nor was it the last, that we'd have a few run-ins in my 3 years there. Now, I mentioned the we, which of course meant me. I was sitting at my desk in the server room after hearing the news, and I mentally started kind of calculating how long it was going to take me to use that tone generator on roughly 75 connections across the two new floors to visit each outlet mapped to each patch panel port. And as I recall, I calculated it would take roughly 8 to 10 hours to do that, meaning I was looking at almost a day and a half at least of being fully devoted to it. And my 20-year-old attention span was not amused at that prospect. So I remember sitting in my desk chair, looking back at the patch panels behind me, and I had what can only be described as that eureka moment. I reached up, unplugged one of the cables, leaned back in my chair, turned to face my desk, looked at the phone, and waited. And sure enough, I got a phone call, which I've tried to kind of reproduce the conversation as best as I can here. I think it went a little bit like this, complete with Eudora, GeoCities, and Ezine references. I'll let you take kind of the next few seconds to marvel at the sheer genius that was my 20-year-old self. See, I'd found the magical solution. Over the next roughly 2 hours, our building experienced what could only be described as intermittent network outages, which everyone received in groups of 10 because I wasn't a monster. Everyone needs to feel that sense of community over random times. However, I had successfully completed the task with the minimal amount of effort on my part. I implemented, without really even knowing it, a few of the core DevOps principles that Emily Freeman lays out in DevOps for Dummies before they were a thing. So let's go through kind of some of those core principles. Encouraging teamwork. Instead of taking the project on all by myself, I efficiently roped others in. They unknowingly provided me with the legwork, allowed me to sit in the server room with my feet up until the next group of people recognized they needed to join me in this project. Reducing silos. So I live in Kansas. Silos are a regular thing here across the plains. And I can honestly say, during this whole thing, as a result of my brilliant plan, there were no new silos that were created during that time. I'd say that was pretty successful. Practicing systems thinking. I holistically approached the problem by using all of the resources I had. My chair was comfortable. I had the patch panels and switches within easy reach behind me. Telephone, had a speakerphone. I had a pen ready to write down the location, and it had plenty of ink. So I recognized that failure that I had in not marking the locations when the wires were run, or that someone had, which left me with a learning opportunity on how to automate that. I also learned that a ballpoint pen was not nearly as effective as a Sharpie. So I'd say I learned from that failure and got more efficient. Communicate, telephones. They used to be used to talk on, not text, take selfies, and do TikTok dances. Surprise, surprise. I used the telephone. I communicated with multiple people over a few hours, and they were all extremely thankful at my communication skills. Accepting feedback. I heard loud and clear that people were having issues with their internet connection. I took that feedback, rolled it all up into actionable results, plugged their cable back in. I then accepted that they were happy with the service that I'd given them, and I'd say that was a pretty productive morning. The challenge with any project, though, be it software or building a deck, is how quickly you can repeat what you've just done, making any change along the way, making way for that next sprint. I was able to take a 1 to 2 a day more process and turn it into less than half a day success story by breaking it all down into small chunks. And finally, automating it, this is where that my 20-year-old self really excelled. I was able to automate that process, manual process of going to 70 or more outlets down into just something that could be done quickly with everyone else. This, of course, was completely in jest and not at all the correct application of DevOps principles, or really a good way of working for anything or anyone. I'd like to say that I've learned a few things since then about DevOps.